You know what really gets my blood boiling? Just the sheer audacity.
Uh-huh.
The unadulterated gall of certain people who, after everything that happened, think they should even be near power again.
Right.
So welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive Report Show with Mike and Sam. We're diving in because, honestly, what we're looking at here, it's not just policy.
No, it feels much bigger than that.
It's like a potential wrecking ball to the whole system, isn't it?
Well, the amount of legal action right now, challenging things from the previous administration, it's pretty telling.
It speaks volumes.
It really does.
Yeah.
We're not talking one or two things. It's lawsuit after lawsuit, questioning if actions taken were even, legal or constitutional.
Exactly. And look, let's be real. Using a term like Trump regime, it's not just for show, is it?
Not when you see the mountain of litigation.
Just sheer volume. It gives you a pretty stark idea of what another round could look like.
And these lawsuits, they cover so much ground.
Yeah.
We're talking fundamental rights, immigration stuff, data privacy.
Education, too.
Education, yeah. It's not just, oh, we disagree on policy. It's asking, did these actions even follow the law? Did they respect the Constitution?
Right. And some of these allegations, everyone should be paying attention. Allegations about migrants just vanishing.
Also appearing, yeah.
Think about that. People are taken into custody and then, poof, gone. What happened to accountability?
Those specific lawsuits, if the claims are true, they point to a massive failure of oversight. Serious questions about human rights, due process, right here in our system.
Then there's this whole data grab situation, lawsuits claiming the Trump administration, and Elon Musk apparently just took people's data.
That's the allegation, yeah. Snatched it.
And then tried to bury it, tried to keep anyone from finding out. The nerve.
Well, the alleged efforts to prevent disclosure, that's what raises the red flags, right?
Totally stinks.
It suggests, maybe there was something to hide,
Wow.
a lack of transparency, potential misuse of private info.
And don't get me started on the alleged targeting of the LGBTQ plus community. Lawsuits talking about blatant discrimination, going after trans people specifically, that's not policy. That's about basic human dignity, equal protection.
And those cases really bring the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause right into focus. If you target one group, it weakens justice for everyone.
Then you look at education. What allegedly went down there? Book bans.
Seriously?
In this country.
In a country supposedly about freedom of thought, lawsuits challenging that because last time I checked, telling people what they can't read, that's dystopian stuff.
It raises serious questions about academic freedom.
And then the student visas. Foreign students having their visas just revoked, detained without due process.
Allegedly, yes, without proper procedure.
These are kids who came here to learn, to contribute, and they were treated like criminals. It's disgraceful.
Those allegations, if proven, suggest a real disregard for established legal norms. And yeah, it could really damage our reputation, our education system long term.
So, okay, who's been pushing back on all this? Who's fighting it in court? Well, the ACLU has been front and center, the American Civil Liberties Union.
Right. They've been busy.
Incredibly busy, filing a huge number of lawsuits across all these different areas you mentioned.
It shows how widespread the concerns were.
Exactly. It underscores the systemic nature of the alleged problems.
And they actually had a huge win, didn't they? At the Supreme Court.
They did, blocking the deportation of some migrant victims.
Victims who allegedly the administration wanted to ship off to a concentration camp in El Salvador. Let that sink in.
That's the term used in the reporting, yes.
Yeah.
A deeply disturbing allegation.
Concentration camp.
And that Supreme Court intervention, it really shows the judiciary acting as a potential check on executive power, even with immigration.
But the story behind that win, it's infuriating. Apparently the administration was, lying to the lower courts.
That's the allegation, misrepresenting their intentions.
Telling judges, nope, we're not deporting them, trust us, while allegedly
preparing to do exactly that.
Putting them on buses. So trust us meant nothing.
The ACLU had to rush in, right? Tell the judge it was an emergency.
Yes, the urgency was critical. They had to act fast to prevent what could have been irreversible harm. Due process, adequate notice, these are fundamental.
And the notice they were trying to give these people, was it 12 hours?
Unreported 12 hours, yes. Which is pathetic.
12 hours to find out you're being sent away, maybe to a place you don't know, a dangerous place. Venezuelans possibly going to El Salvador, to one of the most dangerous prison systems.
It raises massive humanitarian concerns and serious legal questions about, the legality, the ethics of doing that.
And the final insult. The documents they were supposedly given.
In English.
In English, to people who reportedly couldn't understand it. Are you kidding me? 12 hours, a paper you can't read, and off you go to a potentially lethal prison. That's not justice.
It completely negates any idea of due process, doesn't it? It shows a real disregard for basic fairness. It's just cruel. Unbelievably, though, the ACLU saw this coming, didn't they? They were prepping for a potential Trump 2.0 way before any election.
It seems so. They weren't caught flat-footed. They were reportedly building teams, analyzing the first term.
All those lawsuits? What was it, over 400?
434 legal actions in the first term, according to the source. So they knew, okay, we need a revised playbook. We need to be even more ready.
Which is why, apparently, day one, an executive order drops trying to end birthright citizenship.
And bam, the ACLU files suit.
Within 2 hours, how do you even do that?
Pre-planning. They reportedly had the legal theories worked out, knew where they'd file, even had clients lined up.
Who are the clients?
Pregnant immigrant women.
Yeah.
Women whose children, born after that order, would allegedly be denied citizenship. They were ready.
Locked and loaded. Wow. And they were even ready for other stuff like the Alien Enemies Act.
Yeah, anticipating that potential move, too. It shows a really comprehensive, forward-thinking defense strategy.
What even is the Alien Enemies Act? Sounds old.
It is old, 1798. It gives the president really broad powers in wartime or times of invasion to detain or remove alien enemies, using it outside of a declared war that raises huge legal flags about overreach.
Okay, so back to birthright citizenship. This is massive. The current Supreme Court case, it's not the ACLU's directly.
No, this one involves state AGs, and it's currently about procedural stuff, like standing.
But it still connects to the big question, right? Can a president just erase birthright citizenship with an order?
Exactly. That's the fundamental constitutional issue looming behind the procedural arguments. It's huge for defining who's an American.
And the source material calls this one of the most important cases. Why? Because birthright citizenship, it's tied to fixing America's original sin, slavery.
Correct. The 14th Amendment was specifically designed to ensure children of formerly enslaved people were citizens, and it guarantees citizenship for everyone born here.
It made equality real, didn't it? For generations of immigrants, too. The principle is simple. If you were born here, you're an American, period. It shouldn't be debatable.
That historical context is vital. Any attempt to change that, to go against that clear constitutional command, would just fly us. It would rewrite American identity.
So this whole idea allegedly floated of digging into parent status, denying citizenship based on that. Our source calls it a massive power grab.
It would be a huge expansion of executive power.
Yeah.
Challenging decades, centuries of understanding the 14th Amendment.
It hits the core of who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
A nation built by immigrants based on equality. If a president can just overturn that with a pen stroke, what's left of the system?
The implications are just immense. For immigrant communities, for the definition of citizenship, it could fundamentally change the country.
Okay, let's shift a bit. Elon Musk and this Doge person mentioned in the source, the language used about their alleged role is intense.
It is strong language, yes.
Prominent role as a wrecking ball in a hostile takeover of the federal government, allegedly doing it with glee, stripping dignity, stripping services. Wow.
It certainly reflects a very deep concern about their potential influence on government and public services.
And the claim is Musk and the administration worked together to hide information, to block data release about what they were collecting on Americans.
That's the allegation. And the ACLU apparently went after that hard.
Using FOIA requests, right, the Freedom of Information Act, described as a carpet bomb of requests.
Over 40 of them, yes. Trying to use FOIA as democracy's X-ray was the phrase used, to see what data was accessed, who accessed it, why.
To break through the secrecy.
Exactly. FOIA is a key tool for transparency. The sheer number of requests suggests a worry about things happening out of public view.
And they even had to sue over some of those FOIAs because agencies were just sitting on the data.
Allegedly, yes. Delays in providing info about veterans' data or IRS data on immigrants.
Why is that specific data important?
Well, access to it is crucial for understanding past actions, holding government accountable, and frankly, planning future legal strategies to protect rights. If they're hiding it, you have to ask why.
Now, here's something that sounds pretty tough. The source mentioned the capitulation of some law firms, universities, feeling defeated.
That is disheartening to hear, yes. When institutions that should be defending rights seem reluctant.
But the takeaway was, you can't give up. You have to fight for every inch.
Absolutely. It underscores why a determined, unified effort is so important. You can't just let things slide.
Which brings us back to things like that Alien Enemies Act case, using a 1798 law against Venezuelans, trying to deport them to third countries without due process.
It sounds archaic, doesn't it? But the lawyers fought back hard.
Filing habeas petitions everywhere. What's habeas again?
Habeas corpus. It's fundamental. It's the right to challenge your detention before a judge. Filing them all over was a tactic to make sure every person got their case heard, despite the government's alleged moves.
The principle was, not surrender an inch without a pitched battle.
A vital principle in legal advocacy, especially when facing potential executive overreach.
And even now, hearing whispers about potential orders targeting environmentalists, immigrants, democracy groups, the claim is the ACLU and others are ready.
Organized, yes. Ready to respond. If another vulnerable group is targeted for these alleged concentration camps.
They have a plan.
A 50-state strategy, 1,000-city strategy. Lawyers ready in district courts across the country. Decentralized and prepared.
That seems essential, given the potential scale.
It is. You need that kind of broad readiness.
And there's this idea of divide and conquer, the need for nonprofits to work together.
Crucial. With attacks potentially coming on many fronts, sharing info, pooling resources, showing solidarity, it's essential. If one group is targeted, everyone needs to step up.
A united front is stronger.
Absolutely. It's paramount to resist attempts to weaken the overall civil rights ecosystem.
Okay, so the million-dollar question. What if they just ignore the courts?
That's the nightmare scenario, isn't it?
Even a unanimous Supreme Court ruling. What if an administration just says, nope, not doing it?
It strikes right at the core of checks and balances. The rule of law itself. If the executive could just pick and choose which court orders to follow, it fundamentally undermines the judiciary.
So what's the counter? The source says build public momentum. Narrative is key.
Yes. Keep using every legal tool. Keep the pressure on. Civil sanctions against officials who defy orders.
You can actually do that. Sanction individual officials.
There are processes, yes, to hold individuals accountable for flouting court orders. It's about enforcing the court's integrity.
And a really interesting point, bringing everyone on board, even people on the right, the business community.
Because a government ignoring the rule of law, that's bad for business. It creates instability, uncertainty.
Right. It's not just a left-right issue. It affects everyone if the legal system can just be disregarded. So building that broad coalition is vital.
Highlighting those wider consequences, economic, societal, can be very effective.
Ultimately, if a government says it will ignore the Supreme Court on something like, say, due process for asylum seekers, wants to ship people out without notice,
that has to become a major political issue.
The public has to react, right? Stand up and say, no, that's not acceptable. A president can't just ignore the law.
Exactly. In the end, preserving the rule of law needs that strong societal agreement that government has to follow the rules. Public awareness is key.
Apparently, one judge, Judge Boasberg, has been looking into potential violations, even considering criminal contempt.
That kind of judicial action is important. It helps build that narrative, shows the public when lines are being crossed.
But it can't just be judges and lawyers.
No. Ultimately, the public has to demand respect for the rule of law, including at the ballot box.
Because this fight, it's not just for the ACLU or other groups. It involves all of us. We saw it with family separation, didn't we?
We did. They won in court, yes. But the source argues the real shift came from the public outcry.
When people saw those images, children taken from parents,
people from all sides said, this is wrong, enough. And that massive public pressure forced a change.
And that's the kind of momentum that needs to be built again, potentially.
Public awareness, public outrage, public engagement, they are incredibly powerful. History shows they can absolutely be catalysts for change.
So that's the landscape. Lawsuit after lawsuit, allegations of serious deception, power grabs, attacks on basic rights, and this looming question about whether court orders will even be followed.
It's a significant set of challenges. Requires real vigilance, doesn't it?
It really does. This has been the Deep Dive Report Show with Mike and Sam. Look, if this stuff matters to you, if it gets you thinking or maybe even fired up like us,
then stay tuned.
Yeah, keep listening to the Deep Dive Report Show. Please like this, subscribe to the channel, and definitely click that notification bell so you don't miss our next breaking news deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll catch you on the next one.